Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. Today we are doing lesson 6 and only lesson 6, so just one lesson for today. Woohoo! We are working on using place value and models to add. So before we added like fractions, well now we have two fractions that are not like and we need to make them like fractions and then we can add them. So we're using skills that we've already learned, but we're using them in a different way. So like I've always said all year long, once we learn a skill, you cannot just push it away and forget it. You need to hold on to it and remember it because we will come back to it and we will use it again, which is exactly what we're doing today. All right, let's jump in with math in my world and we will just model and work our way through this. It is very, very simple. Denny walked 3/10 mile to the post office. Then he walked 5/100 mile to the grocery store. How far did he walk in all? Write the answer as a fraction with a denominator of 100 and as a decimal. So we have two numbers that we need to work with. We have 3/10 and 5/100, and we need to add them together. All right, so use a model to show 3/10 plus 5/100. What they did over here, they had 3/10 and 5/100. All right, so that's how we're going to solve it. Step 1, write 3/10 as a fraction with a denominator of 100. All right, there are a couple ways that we can do this. The first way is we need to make them like fractions. So we need to think about 3/10 times some number equals 30/100. So we need to get from here to here. Well, we can take 100 divided by 10. 10 times what number gives me 100? Or how many groups of 10 do I need to make 100? Well, let's do 100 divided by 10 because that's the easiest. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So if I multiply the bottom by 10, I also need to multiply the top by 10. All right, so 3/10 becomes 30/100. Okay? We knew it had 30/100, but let's pretend we didn't know. All right, let's pretend we didn't know that it was going to be 30/100. Do you remember how to figure out what number we need to multiply by? You need to find the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor for 10 and 100 is 10. So I'm going to take 3/10 times 10 on the top and bottom, and that's how I get 30/100. For this lesson, we're always using 10s and 100s, so we know we're going to have to multiply by 10. All right, if you're going to do it with any other numbers, then you're going to have to find the greatest common factor and multiply. But for the sake of this lesson, we're just using 10. Now that we have like fractions, we have two fractions that have a denominator of 100, we can add them. Remember, you keep the denominator the same, and you add the numerator. So 30 plus 5 is 35. Now step 3, write the sum as a decimal. Think of 35/100 as 35/100. So we have 0 wholes, and then we have 35/100. So 3/10 plus 5/100 equals 35/100, or 0.35. So Denny walked 35/100, or 0.35 miles in all. Jump on down to example 2. Find 4/10 plus 22/100. Write the sum as a fraction with a denominator of 100 and as a decimal. So we need two answers. One fraction with a denominator of 100 and a decimal. It's the same process. We need to convert 4/10 into a fraction with a denominator of 100. So I'm going to need to multiply the top and the bottom by 10. 4 times 10 is 40. 10 times 10 is 100. Now that I have 40/100 and 22/100, I can add like fractions. You can only add fractions when the denominator is the same. So now I can add 40/100 plus 22/100 down here. Adding like fractions, we know how to do that. We keep the denominator the same, and we add the numerator. If you need to write it vertical, go ahead if that's what's going to help you. 4 plus 2 is 6. Oh, sorry, this should say 40. So this 0 plus 2 is 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. So our numerator is 62. Now we need to write the sum as a decimal. So we have 62 hundredths. So 62 is equal to 0.62. So 4 tenths plus 22 hundredths equals 62 hundredths, or 0.62. Check. The model shows that 4 tenths plus 22 hundredths equals 62 hundredths. We had 4 tenths over here. Then we had 22 hundredths. And then when we had our hundredths grid, we colored in 4 tenths. And then, I'll use red, 22. And then count up the total, and you should get 62 hundredths. So we are good to go. Down here for guided practice. Add. Write each sum as a fraction with a denominator of 100 and as a decimal. So we need to take 5 tenths and multiply it by 10 on the top and bottom. 5 times 10 is 50. 10 times 10 is 100. So let's rewrite this fraction as 50 100ths plus 1 100th. 50 plus 1 is 51 100ths, and now we need to write it as a decimal. So we need 0 wholes and 51 hundredths. Let's try number 2. Let me erase this over here so we have some more room to work. 7 tenths plus 13 hundredths. Well, we need to get this to have a denominator of 100. So we need to multiply the top and bottom by 10. 7 times 10 is 70. 10 times 10 equals 100. So now we have 70 hundredths plus 13 hundredths. What's 70 plus 13? 83 hundredths. Now we need to write it as a decimal. We have 0 wholes and we have 83 hundredths. All right, move on down to the independent practice, page 665 of your packet. Give this a shot. Check with the answer key on Canvas, and then do the homework for lesson 6. And the answer key to lesson 6 homework will be posted on Canvas for tomorrow. All right, and then I will see you tomorrow for our last math lesson. Can you believe that? We are so close to being done.